What up, Space Fam? Goes in here from AnimeUproar, and today I have a huge Demon Slayer video for you where I will be going over all 16 breath styles and ranking them from weakest to strongest. If you do enjoy seeing these Demon Slayer videos on the channel and want to keep them coming, channel the Hashira within and smash that like button with no mercy. Remember, smashing is Hashira energy and passing is Muzan energy, so choose wisely. If you haven't, make this the video, subscribe and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications, or you will miss your regular dose of Demon Slayer content. And lastly, as you wait for the next video to drop, feel free to check out my huge and growing Demon Slayer playlist that includes videos on all the Hashira, Demon Moons, and much more. Link to that is in the description. And now, without further ado, let's jump into it, spoilers and all. Let's make some things clear from the get-go. We are judging the breath style here, not the users of the breath style. For instance, Tanjiro used sun breathing, the strongest form against Rui. Yet Muichiro, the Mist Hashira, could have wrecked Tanjiro beyond belief at that point in the story, despite the fact that mist breathing is weaker than sun breathing. So just because one character is stronger than another does not mean their breathing style is automatically stronger. The reason people strayed from sun breathing and developed their own styles is because those styles bring out their personal abilities the most. For instance, Shinobu is stronger using insect style than she would be using any other style because the other stronger breath styles wouldn't match her personal abilities and strength so well. Since she can't even cut a demon's head off, all those styles that rely on that will be useless to her no matter how strong they are. Now let's get into the story where the idea of one breath style being stronger than another is brought up, because it didn't have to be. It could have been one of those situations where a Kamehameha is not necessarily stronger than a Gallic gun, just different. In other words, every breath style could have been more or less potentially equal, just different. But it's made clear that this is not the case when Rengoku's dad tells us about the fact that sun breathing is the first and strongest breathing technique. He tells us that all other breathing techniques are merely variations. All those styles are nothing more than imitations of sun breathing. They are lesser forms that copied sun breathing. And although Rengoku's dad is a very pessimistic dude and takes this too far, starting to think that if you're not a sun breather then you are pretty much useless, there is still truth to his initial info about sun breathing being the strongest breath. In Upper Moon 1 Kokushibo's backstory, it's once more explained that no one could match Yoriichi the sun breather, and so to suit each person's skills and capabilities, Yoriichi changed the breathing technique as he taught. Thus, techniques derived from sun breathing came one after the other. The way I look at it is this: the strongest sun breather who perfected his breathing style would be stronger than the strongest stone breather who perfected his breathing style. But that doesn't mean anyone who can use sun breathing is automatically stronger than anyone who can use stone breathing. Using this information that comes directly from multiple places in the story, we can start to position the breathing style strengths in relation to one another. If water is inferior to sun breathing because it is an imitation of sun breathing, then flower breathing is inferior to water breathing because it is an imitation of water breathing, which is in turn an imitation of sun breathing, and so on. Using this logic, we can create levels of breathing, and I created 5 levels that are applicable based on the information we get from the Demon Slayer story. There are 16 breath styles that we'll look at for the purposes of this video that will all fall between level 5, the weakest, and level 1, the strongest. And it's not a big spoiler to say that sun breathing will be level 1, the strongest breathing style, so we are going to work up to it from level 5. In some cases, there will be multiple breathing styles in one level, and in those cases, you can assume they're all relatively equal. Nevertheless, I may mention one that I personally prefer or lean towards for one reason or another, but yeah, let's get into level 5. Level 5 contains the breath styles that are 3 times removed from sun breathing, aka they are an imitation of an imitation of an imitation of sun breathing. Out of the known breath styles, insect breathing is the only one that fits the bill. Insect breathing comes from flower breathing, which comes from water breathing, which comes from sun breathing. Shinobu the insect pillar is the only known user of insect breathing, and she created it in order to compensate for the fact that she doesn't have the strength to cut off a demon's head. Shinobu used a modified lighter blade that allows her to quickly stab and inject her demon opponents with lethal amounts of wisteria flower poison. One of her standout attacks is insect breathing, Dance of the Centipede 100-legged zigzag. This attack is so fast that Upper Moon 2 Doma couldn't even keep up with it. Shinobu was able to stab his neck, but unfortunately this was not enough to kill him. So yeah, this style is especially fast to reflect Shinobu's light weight light and light sword, but lacks the killing power to finish off especially strong demons. Level 4 contains breath styles that are 2 times removed from sun breathing. There are actually 6 breath styles in this category, and as I mentioned, we can pretty much view them as being on equal footing, but there are some specific attacks from certain breath styles that stand out to me as being especially awesome, and I'll get into them soon enough. Let's start with sound breathing, which comes from thunder breathing. It's a breath style created by Tengen Uzui, the sound Hashira. Tengen's style is characterized by his unique dual Nichirin cleavers and his anti-demon bombs. It's definitely a flashy style, but it was not enough for him to beat Upper Moon 6 Gyutaro on his own. Notably, the breath style is associated with Tengen's musical score technique, which allows him to analyze combat maneuvers to the point where he can read them like sheet music. It takes time, but eventually he can convert the rhythm of enemies' attacks into sound and the fight into a song. He hears repeated phrases and can attack between beats and during the rests, dancing with his opponent. This implies if he survives long enough, he'll be stronger when his analysis clicks into place. Unfortunately, he has to survive long enough, and against Gyutaro, by the time this technique clicked, the poison in his body had him at his limit, just blocking the enemy's attacks. Next, breath style number 3, beast breathing, which branches off from wind breathing. Inosuke, the boar face / girly face demon slayer himself, invented this breathing style. It's characterized by dual chipped blades and animal-like unexpected movements. The style is the opposite of refined, and that often works for Inosuke. Inosuke does stuff like dislocate his joints to increase the range of his attacks, and his insane flexibility that he employs in battle is so unique that Doma doesn't notice it when he takes back Kano's sword from him. One of my favorite attacks that captures Inosuke's insane but awesome style is beast breathing, sudden throwing strike. Who else would have a form that includes just whipping your swords at someone? What makes it even more awesome is that this move is the final one that helps push Kano's blade into Upper Moon 2 Doma's rotting neck, which finishes him off once and for all. Another interesting thing is how Inosuke incorporates his sense of touch into his fighting style, allowing him to sense subtle changes in the air, or to even use 7th form spatial awareness to identify the position of enemy demons across a large wooded area. Breath style number 4 also branches off from wind breathing. Mist breathing is used by the Mist Hashira Muichiro Tokito. An especially cool move is mist breathing 7th form obscuring clouds. This form is the personal creation of our extremely talented Muichiro. It allows him to appear as if he's shrouded in mist. From Upper Moon 5's perspective, it seems like he's constantly disappearing before the Upper Moon can reach him until Muichiro finally slices off his head and puts him out of his misery. It's explained that this technique uses widely fluctuating speed to confuse one's opponent. When you show yourself, you move as slow as a turtle, but when you're hidden, you move in the blink of an eye. We're told its top speed is even faster than Upper Moon 5. Keep in mind at this point, someone beating an Upper Moon by themselves was unheard of, and Muichiro did it using this self-created technique. Very cool. And Muichiro is a great example of someone who is stronger than many people who use arguably stronger breath styles. For instance, keep in mind Murata uses water breathing. Breath style number 5 is love breathing, which branches off from flame breathing. Fun story, Mitsuri first learned flame breathing from Rengoku before going on to create her own breath style, love breathing. Some unique aspects of this style is that it incorporates Mitsuri's superhuman flexibility and a whip-like sword that pretty much no one but her could use without getting hurt. The whip-like sword increases her range significantly. Also, because her blade is extremely thin and flexible, and because of her own flexibility and incredible range of motion, the narrator tells us that the speed of her techniques surpasses even Sound Hashira Tengen Uzui's. Her breath style allowed her to hold off the strongest clone of Upper Moon 4 long enough for Tanjiro to deal with the real body, and she used her breathing style to help during the final fight against Muzan, although she was the first out of her, Sanemi, Giyu, Iguro, and Gyomei to be temporarily taken out of the fight by Muzan. This may have less to do with love breathing than it has to do with Mitsuri, but she's also super strong. Her muscle density is 8 times that of a normal person, meaning she'd look very jacked if her muscles reflected her power. Keep in mind, she was able to rip off Muzan's arm at one point to Muzan's shock. This strength obviously lets her handle her blade better, but it's cool how, if need be, she can even resort to kicking butt barehanded. Breath style number 6 is serpent breathing, which branches off from water breathing. It's yet another case where a person, in this case Iguro the serpent Hashira, create a new style to match their personal strengths. Iguro's style is characterized by a twisted serpent-like blade. This style includes twists and turns that are similar to that of a snake's, And just as Gyu's sword swings are depicted by waves of water, Iguro's take the form of a snake. It's notable that Iguro is singled out by the mangaka as one of the physically weaker swordsmen among the Hashira, only Shinobu ranked lower. It's impressive to see how well Serpent style lets him fight though, because he is undoubtedly one of the best fighters in my view. In extreme circumstances, if he loses his vision, he can use his friend Snake Kaburamaru to guide him, and in this way he can still use the serpent breathing style effectively. Breath style number 7, the final level 4 breathing style is flower breathing, which branches off from water breathing as well. Flower breathing was used by the former flower Hashira Kanae Kocho and then by Kanao. The style is associated with grace, agility, and enhanced visual powers. A standout form is Flower Breathing Final Form Vermilion Eye. It puts so much pressure on Kano's already special eyes that they turn red from the blood, and the ability can lead to blindness. However, in exchange for the risks, dynamic vision is increased to the utmost, making surrounding movements look dull and slow. I think of it like the world around and the opponent's attacks are moving in slow motion, giving you much more time to respond and make the right move. It is undoubtedly one of my favorite forms in the entire series. It allowed Kanao to get close to Upper Moon 2's neck so that with some help from Inosuke, they could cut it off. Now yes, Doma was poisoned and not at his best, but even so, there's no way getting that close to him against his will would ever be easy, especially with his OP ice powers. And now we've come to level 3 breath styles once removed from sun breathing. These are the ones for the most part that you are likely to see in any generation of Hashira. The 5 main ones include flame, water, wind, thunder, and stone, and we'll get a 6th one on this level too, but we'll get to why I lean towards considering that one a bit stronger than the 5 main ones. You'll also notice as we move up to the strongest breath style, sun breathing, that there are less tricks involved, which are incorporated as arguably a form of compensation in the weaker styles. Although all breath styles are cool in their own way, and I often enjoy the trickiness of lower breath styles, you don't see stuff like insect breathing's poison or sound breathing's bombs being incorporated anymore. It actually gets more straightforward as we get closer to sun breathing, which is just so strong when fully mastered. It doesn't seem to require any tricks, just pure ownage. Let's start with breath style number 8, wind breathing. Wind breathing is used by the wind Hashira Sanemi. He learned it in the past with his friend Masachika Kumeno, who ended up dying in a fight against a previous lower rank one. Wind breathing is associated with attacks that look similar in appearance to whirlwinds, gusts, typhoons, and so on. It's a very offensive style, and Sanemi uses a standard sword. It's not surprising that Inosuke's wild style branches off from wind breathing, because not only are Sanemi's attacks seemingly wild like a tornado, but he has even incorporated Genya's sword unexpectedly in the past into a fight with Upper Moon 1, and he held it with his foot, not even with a hand. Now, Demon Slayers don't magically generate their element in the world of Demon Slayer. Like Rengoku isn't actually generating a flame tiger, and Gyu isn't actually generating water with his slashes. They are normal sword attacks, but are just made to look cooler with those added effects that overemphasize just how much their sword swings look like their elemental breath style. Like, I don't think I need to tell most people that Iguro isn't actually summoning a snake when he attacks. Still, I've seen it said that some of Sanemi's attacks are different, that he actually generates wind from his swings, and wind probably would be the easiest element to generate, but again, I'd lean on the side of all significant damage he gives can probably be boiled down to a physical sword slash, where the sword itself connected to the target, or even multiple very quick sword slashes following one another. The only time this is not the case and deadly elements or things are actually being generated is with Blood Demon arts, but more on that later on in the video. Next up, let's look at breath style number 9, stone breathing. Stone breathing is used by the strongest Hashira Gyome. It's associated with a very unique weapon, namely a Nichirin spiked ball attached to a long chain, which is in turn attached to an axe. It's one of the more long-range weapons in the series, and Gyome is able to wield it so effortlessly because of his insane strength. In fact, the mangaka ranked him as the physically strongest of all the Hashira, and called it scary how insanely strong he is. I usually think of Gyome as someone who took stone breathing to its pinnacle, kind of how Yoriichi took sun breathing to its pinnacle. Obviously, he's not on Yoriichi's level, just as stone breathing isn't as strong as sun breathing, but Gyome took stone breathing to a level that really impressed Upper Moon 1, and even played the biggest role in his defeat. Kokushibo said that Gyome developed his physical form to the utmost, and he feels like it's been at least 300 years since he's seen such a great swordsman, and that's before Gyome even shows his Demon Slayer mark. Another notable aspect is that Gyomei's weapon has unusually high purity and cannot be cut or broken by Kokushibo. It's said iron that absorbed that much sunlight hadn't even been discovered in the Sengoku period when swordsmithing was at its peak. Although Gyomei's fighting style is more straightforward than Sanemi's for the most part, when you adjust to his totally different weapon, Gyomei still finds himself needing to think outside the box against Kokushibo. While Kokushibo is fighting Sanemi, Gyomei, Muichiro, and Genya, he doesn't really mess up until Gyomei launches one of his rosary balls at Kokushibo's hand, which opens an opportunity to deliver more significant damage to the upper moon. As we know, sun-breathing Yoriichi wouldn't have needed a rosary ball or even a team. He could have easily and straightforwardly defeated Kokushibo with sword skills as he did in the past. Now let's enter what I view as the big three of the main breathing styles: flame, water, and thunder. And when I say the big three, I'm not saying they are for sure stronger than wind and stone when taken to their highest level, but there are a few things that stand out about these three. One is the fact that we are introduced to former Hashira of these types, and they are established as having more of a tradition within the world of Demon Slayer. The other is that at one point or another, we see these three styles take on the form of dragons, whether it be a lightning dragon, water dragon, or flame dragon. For Kyojuro, his strongest attack takes the form of a dragon in the movie and anime, which makes sense to me. It appears to be a purposeful change, not just a change made to add to the hype. And it definitely suggests to me that if he survived in the manga, we might have seen a flame dragon from him there too, just as we saw a water dragon from Giyu and a lightning dragon from Zenitsu. Why am I singling out the styles that take the forms of dragons, you may ask? Well, because one, dragons are often considered to be the strongest creatures in myth and therefore usually represent the strongest level of power, and two, sun breathing, the strongest breath style, is known for taking the form of a dragon and even has a move called Dragon Sun Halo Head Dance. So yeah, I just wanted to point out something unique I noticed about these three, which may suggest that they are on another level, but does not guarantee it. So let's start with thunder breathing, breathing style number 10 for the purposes of this video. As we know, our boy Zenitsu uses thunder breathing and learned it from his former Hashira, Jigoro, along with his senpai Kaigaku. More on him later. As most of us know, thunder breathing is associated with extreme speed. In fact, the first form, thunderclap and flash, is described as being similar to lightning ripping through the air. It's Zenitsu's go-to move since it's the only one he knew and could learn for a long time. Because Zenitsu focused so much on this one form, he kept improving on its execution until he could perform first form, thunderclap, and flash Godspeed. As with Kano's Vermilion Eye, there can be consequences. This can only be used so many times before Zenitsu's legs are shot and temporarily unusable, but he always recovered given enough time. Lastly, there is Zenitsu's very hype self-created 7th form called Flaming Thunder God, and as mentioned, it takes the form of a lightning dragon to add to its hype. With it, he could outspeed new Upper Moon 6 Kaigaku, despite the latter having demon-enhanced thunder-breathing powers. Next, let's look at breath style number 11, water breathing. Of course, Tanjiro used it along with former Hashira Sakonji, Sabito, Makomo, Aoi, and even Murata, but I think most of us associate this breathing style with the water Hashira Giyu Tomioka. Like thunder breathing, water breathing includes a standard Nichirin katana. The swings often take the form of waves of water, but as mentioned, sometimes they take the form of a dragon. Giyu used the 10th form, Constant Flux, when fighting with Muzan, and his attack straight up looked like he just unleashed Shenron from Dragon Ball. Notably, this form gets stronger and stronger by building up momentum with each rotation, making it an especially cool and powerful move. I'll also mention Giyu's own personal creation, 11th form, Dead Calm. The user seemingly clears their mind and ceases all unnecessary movement. Then when the attacks come, like Rui's threads, the user cuts them so fast that the movement is practically invisible to the eye. It sort of reminds me of Ultra Instinct, getting into a state where your body is ready to respond for you, cutting the amount of time it takes to react. This form is not actually an impenetrable defense though, and someone at a high enough level like Akaza can break through it. Next, let's look at breath style number 12, flame breathing, not fire breathing, but flame breathing. We're told the exact wording is very important. Probably because fire is associated with the fire god, which is associated with sun breathing rather than flame breathing. Still, the similarities of flame and fire are not lost on us, and it makes flame breathing feel special because of its closeness to sun breathing. Known flame breathers include Shinjuro Rengoku, Kyojuro Rengoku, and for a time Mitsuri, but Kyojuro is definitely the main dude we think about when we think about flame breathing. Notably, there was a dude with Rengoku's hair when Yoriichi first taught people breathing styles, so flame was one of the first, and Rengoku's family was there from the beginning and managed to pass it down without fail for hundreds of years. It's probably not a coincidence that Rengoku's flame breathing sword, sometimes called red and other times reddish orange depending on who you ask, is closest to color to the ultimate bright red sword used by sun breathers. And then, as I mentioned, in the movie and anime, they changed the final attack to include a flame dragon, which I think is probably what the mangaka would have wanted if she could go back and change the beginning, knowing the end and how significant the dragons would become. So yeah, although not sun breathing, it's definitely one of the closest to it, based off of the idea of fire and flames, based off of the color of the blade, based off of the dragon attacks, so it comes as no surprise to me that Rengoku was one of the strongest Hashira and did so well against Akaza, and keep in mind this was without awakening a Demon Slayer mark. Then we move on to breath style number 13, moon breathing. A tricky style to be sure. The breathing style relationship chart puts moon breathing as one removed from sun breathing, just like flame, thunder, water, stone, and wind. In my view, it deserves a little bit extra respect because the moon always comes off as an equal partner to the sun in mythology, and depending on how the mangaka wanted to do it, water could have even been made to branch off from moon because of the moon's connection to waves and all that. However, I put it in the same category as the others, level 3, because the mangaka made it simply branch off from sun breathing like the others. Still, there's a caveat there because I do want to give it some bonus points based off of Yoriichi and Kokushibo's backstory. In the backstory, although Yoriichi always surpassed his brother Michikatsu Tsugikuni, aka Kokushibo, Michikatsu once said to him that no skilled warriors were comparable to them too. He went on to say, and I quote, "The prospects for the succession of the breathing art are dismal. The perfected techniques would die out," end quote. Which to me sounds like that in this old golden age of breathing styles, where a lot of techniques were seemingly perfected, moon breathing was only second to sun breathing. But we won't get into moon breathing forms just yet because we don't actually see proper moon breathing. We see blood demon art enhanced moon breathing, which brings us to our next level, level 2, breath styles once removed from sun breathing, plus blood demon art enhancements. You may argue that there should have been more levels where I could have placed demon enhanced insect breathing and so on, but since we only saw demon enhanced thunder and moon breathing, I thought it didn't make much sense to speculate about how the other styles would have looked if we combined them with a blood demon art. So let's start with breath style number 14, demon thunder breathing. As the opposite of Zenitsu, Kaigaku learned thunder breathing forms 2 to 6, but couldn't learn the first one that Zenitsu honed so much. Despite this, after becoming a demon, Kaigaku claims he surpassed thunder breathing. And there is a reason I put this demon breathing style ahead of normal thunder breathing. Kaigaku's blood demon art actually lets him manifest electricity or black lightning to enhance his thunder breathing forms. An interesting detail revealed in a databook is that he uses a sword made out of his flesh like Kokushibo, which comes with benefits like being able to regenerate if it's broken, or being able to channel his blood demon art through it more effectively. The blood demon art increases the damage, sharpness, and range of Kaigaku's attacks, while his demonization makes him even faster than he was before, which is notable because users of thunder breathing are known for speed already. Kaigaku remarks that his attacks don't just cut the flesh, but also burn it. He further comments that any slashing attacks Zenitsu takes will continue to rend his flesh, aka rip apart his flesh. The electricity burns into the opponent's eyes and body, thus it doesn't just burn at the moment of impact, but like poison, it has after effects. And you might be thinking, yeah, but he loses to Zenitsu. And that's true, but it comes back to the distinction between individual fighters rather than the distinction between breath styles. Zenitsu is more skilled at this point in the story, even going so far as to create his own thunder form, Flaming Thunder God, that's fast enough to cut off Kaigaku's head without him even being able to see it. It's a crazy detail and we should all let it sink in. And even then, as Kaigaku mentions, they were both going to die. Zenitsu had no more energy left and he was going to fall to his death. But luckily Yushiro is there to save him from the fall and save him from the spreading of Kaigaku's blood demon art in his body. Furthermore, Yushiro mentions that Kaigaku was inexperienced. He hadn't mastered his techniques and abilities. He says if the fight happened 1 year later, Kaigaku would have probably killed Zenitsu immediately. So given all that, imagine how strong Zenitsu would have been using demon enhanced thunder breathing. Imagine how powerful and fast a technique like Flaming Black Thunder Thunder God would have been, as it took the form of a black lightning dragon attacking the enemy. Yeah, this black thunder breathing definitely has some insane potential. Then we get to breath style number 15, Demon Moon Breathing, used by Upper Moon 1 Kokushibo. Like with Kaigaku, Kokushibo uses a sword made of his demon flesh, but Kokushibo had way more experience mastering his style. Remember when Yushiro said that if Kaigaku had another year, Zenitsu would have been toast? Well, Kokushibo had centuries. He can straight up change the shape of his sword to increase its reach and its unpredictability. His blood demon art is called Crescent Moon Blades, and as the name suggests, it allows countless crescent moon blades to appear from his sword and slashes. Just like Yutaro's blood sickles, these crescent blades travel through the air and will cut anything they come into contact with, giving Kokushibo long-range attacks despite the fact that he's a swordsman. The other tricky aspect of this Demon Moon Breathing style is that the countless crescent moon blades are chaotic and are always changing in length and size, making them practically impossible to predict and very difficult to avoid. When he increases the size of his sword and makes it branch-like, Kokushibo can unleash attacks like Moon Dragon Ringtail, again notice the dragon there, which is a very long-range and deadly attack. The skilled Wind Hashira Sanemi thinks that he can't get close enough to cut his neck after Kokushibo launches this attack, and he even comments on how he needs to use all of his strength just to dodge such attacks. Since Kokushibo lived for so long, he was able to create and master at least a shocking 16 forms of moon breathing. Some notable forms include the 14th form, which creates a violent vortex of crescent blades, and the 16th form, which allows him to rain down crescent blades on his opponents. Each point of impact is so powerful that it destroys the floor. And I think that about covers moon breathing. There's clearly a reason that it took the strongest Hashira Gyomei, two of the other strongest Hashira, Sanemi and Muichiro, and even Genya, who had the power to absorb Kokushibo's great power and use it against him, to defeat this breathing style. Finally, that leads us to level 1, the final and strongest breath style, which is funny because it was the first created. Of course, I'm talking about sun breathing, breath style number 16 for the purposes of this video. We know Yoriichi, the strongest demon slayer in history, used this style and passed it down to Tanjiro's ancestor Sumiyoshi, and eventually worked its way down to Tanjiro's dad, and then Tanjiro in the form of the Dance of the Fire God. Yoriichi used the initial 12 forms to wreck Muzan, and I mean like embarrassingly crush him, and he even gave him PTSD during this encounter. But scared and shocked, Muzan still managed to survive by suddenly bursting his body open with incredible force. He scattered his body into 1,800 pieces, and Yoriichi got an unbelievable 1,500, but the remaining 300 that escaped were enough for Muzan to eventually regenerate. Yoriichi as an old man proved to be far superior to Demon Kokushibo too, but he died of old age standing up before he could finish off Kokushibo. After his encounter with Muzan, Yoriichi created the so-called 13th form as a means to kill Muzan, which consisted of actually repeating forms 1 through 12 over and over again while increasing the speed and accuracy. Against Muzan, Tanjiro hoped he could keep it up until the sun came out and finished the job. However, he hadn't mastered sun breathing to the extent Yoriichi had, and he needed significant help from the other demon slayers. As mentioned, this breath style can also take the form of a fire dragon, as we see when Tanjiro uses the move Sun Halo Dragon against Muzan. Sun breathing is also associated with a black blade that turns bright red during combat, and this bright red blade is super effective against demons and significantly slows down their regeneration. Near the end of the series, the most skilled slayers, even non-sun breathers, are able to similarly turn their blade bright red, reaffirming the fact that it is the strongest color you can reach. What else is there to say except that Yoriichi's sun breathing was so strong, so overpowered, that he burned Muzan on a cellular level. And even after hundreds of years, and Muzan's insane level of regeneration, the wounds appear on Muzan's body again during the final battle, helping the Demon Slayers see where his weak points are. And that is it for all 16 breath styles ranked from weakest to strongest. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope the level thing wasn't too confusing. I'm realizing now that level 1 being the strongest might be a bit confusing, but just don't view it as your RPG character leveling up, and it should make sense. I like the idea of 1 being the strongest and working down to it. Let me know your thoughts on all this in the comments. I encourage you to let me know if you agree or disagree with this list and why. The goal is always to start a discussion with these videos. Also, let me know in the comments what your favorite breath style is and what kind of breathing breathing style you wish you saw but didn't in the series. If you did like the video, you know what to do. Channel the sun breather within and smash that like button with no mercy. Remember, smashing that like button is Yorichi energy and passing is scared Muzan energy, so choose wisely. If you haven't made this the video, subscribe, and this is critical. Hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications or you will miss future Demon Slayer videos and updates. And while you wait for the next Demon Slayer video to drop, feel free to check out my huge and growing Demon Slayer playlist that includes videos on all Demon Moons, Hashira, and much more. Link to that is in the description. As I'm finishing this script, I look forward to seeing how long this video actually ends up being, because the research/writing phase definitely took a while and I feel like it's going to be a pretty long one. We'll see, but that's another reason you should smash that like button if you enjoyed the video, because it encourages me to make more of these longer ones that take more work. And yeah, now that I recorded up to this point, I feel like I may be losing my voice a bit, but it's all good. Anyways, that's it for this one. Happy New Year, since this will hopefully be done around that time. Wishing you and all your loved ones the best in 2022. And until next time, see ya, Space Cowboys.